Good afternoon. Good morning. Am I audible?
Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
So last class we have discussed, I think, economic operation of power system. That introductory part we have started, and we'll continue with that. So we have discussed in last class what is incremental production cost, what is heat rate curve, what is input output characteristic of any power plant, what is the economic load dispatch, okay, economic operation of power system, concept, those topics we have discussed in the last class. Now we'll start with the constraints in operation. So what are the constraints? See, when we are performing this economic operation of power system or economic load dispatch, there are certain constraints out there. So constraints means we have to satisfy those boundary conditions. Okay, we have to satisfy those boundary conditions. So out of those boundary condition, it is if you classify, if you categorize, there are two types of boundary constraints are there, or let us say constraints of the operation. So what are those constraints? We'll discuss now. So basically constraints is classified into two. One is the equality constraints. Another is the inequality constraint. Okay. So what are these equality constraint and inequality constraint? We'll discuss now. Okay. So the power system has to satisfy several constraints while in operation. This may be broadly divided into two types. The first of these arises out of this necessity for the system to satisfy load balance and are called the equality constraint. So first condition should be the equality constraint. In equality constraints, we need to satisfy the load balance equation. So load balance equation means the total generation should be equal to total load. Okay, so at any bus, if you calculate, so total generation should be equal to the total load. Now, if you include the transmission line loss, so in economic load dispatch, there are two types of operation. One is the with transmission line loss, and another case is without transmission line loss. Now, without transmission line loss, if you consider that case, so your total generation should be equal to the total load. But when you consider the transmission line loss, so that time the total generation should be equal to total load plus total line losses. So at any bus I, PS1 and QS1 correspond to the scheduled generation, and PD1 and QD1 are the load demands. Then the following equations must be satisfied at bus I. So this is true for all bus. This is a general type of constraints. Okay. So this PS1 is the active power generation of the generator, and QS1 is the reactive power generation of the generator. PD1 is the total active power load of that particular bus, connected bus, and QD1 is the reactive power load of that particular bus. So the load balance equation is basically, if you consider, that is PS1 minus PD1 minus P1 equal to G1 is equal to 0, and QS1 minus QD1 minus Q1 equal to H1 equal to 0. Now, what is this thing? Let us understand this thing very clearly. So let us consider first a bus is there. Okay, let us say it is a bus. Now in this bus, we have a generator is connected. We have a generator is connected. So let us say it is a generator and it is connected with this bus. Now here there will be two kind of thing. One is it will be connected with another transmission line, and this will be your connected load. So if you see this thing, so that means this is your generator. This is your, let us say, one more, another bus is there here. Another bus. So this is bus number I. This is bus number I, and this is your bus number J. And here you have a connected load. You have a connected load. So what will happen? Here, the generator is generating power is PT1. The load is here PT1, and this is your, let us say, the power flow from the bus, because see, the generator is generating power, total power is PT1. Now locally it will supply the power to this load. So let us say 1000 megawatt it is generating. PT1 is generating 1000 megawatt. The total load, connected load here is 200 megawatt. So 1000 minus 200, that is 800 megawatt. It is now remaining. So this remaining power will flow into the other bus. So when we write the equation, that time it is PG1 minus PD1 minus P1, that is equal to, let us say, G1, and it should be equal to 0. This is a balance, load balance equation. Similarly, the case is with the reactive power also. So let us say this is QG1, the reactive power, and this is your Q1, and this is, let us say, QB1. So we can write the equation for the reactive power, that is QG1 minus QD1 minus Q1 equal to, let us say, H1, and this should be equal to 0, because total generation, this is the total generation minus total load minus total power flow, this should be equal to 0. This is clear? Any doubt? Any doubt on this part? How the load balance equation is satisfied? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now next, what is the value of this P1 and Q1? Now this is from the load flow equation. So are you familiar with this equation till now? I think load flow it is started. Are you familiar with this equation? P1 and Q1? आपको पढ़ाया है ये? Do you know this thing, this equation? Because load flow it is started na in another portion. This equation. Do you know this equation?
No, sir.
Okay, fine, no issue. So you will, this particular equation we are getting from the load flow study. Okay, load flow study. You will very soon you will know this thing. Okay, I think Anil sir will derive this equation and you will know this. Basically, what is this P1? P1 I have shown you. This is the I will show you this particular thing. I will not derive, but I will show you what is this. So P1 equal to summation of Pi Vj Yij cos of delta I minus delta j minus theta ij. Now what is this? Vi is the voltage of this bus. See, we are calculating this P1. We are calculating. This will be derived in due course of time. It will be derived in your course. And Vj is the voltage at this bus. Yij. So Yij means this is the, what is Y? It is the admittance. It is the admittance between bus I and J. And delta I, it is the power angle of bus I delta J. This is the power angle of bus J, and theta ij, it is the power factor angle. Okay. Now is it, what is this P1? It is clear. P1, how to calculate P1? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now similarly, the Q1 we can calculate. Q1 equal to this is summation of Vi, Vj, Yij. This will be sine of delta I minus delta J minus theta Ij. Okay. So the same thing, only here instead of sine it is cos. So the reactive power injected, this is the reactive power injected. How much power will be injected from this bus to this bus, from bus I to bus J? What is the power injection? So that will be calculated with the help of this formula, P1 and Q1. But the derivation part, it will be done under the load flow study. So I am not covering that particular part because load flow study is taken by Anil sir, so he will cover that. So with usual notation, and G and H are the residuals at bus I, which should become zero at the point of solution. So this is the way we will basically calculate that, how to calculate the power flow equations. Means P1 and Q1 and the load, your basically load balance equation, or this is actually known as these two equations are known as the equality constraint of the economic load dispatch. Now, in addition, a number of other constraints due to the physical and operational limitation of the units and component will arise in economic scheduling. These are in the form of inequality constraints. See, I have told you there are inequality constraints also. There are equality constraints and there are some inequality constraints. Equality constraint is basically your load balance equation, and inequality constraint things we'll now discuss. So first thing, that is we have to know that each generator, let us say in a system there are n number of generators are there. So each generator will generate between some minimum generation and maximum generation. So we have discussed this point also. So there is some minimum generation and there is some maximum generation. So similarly, reactive power is applicable for the reactive power also. So in reactive power, will be of any generator will be generated between some minimum value and some maximum value. So that means this is basically so let us say this is your Pi. So Pi is Pi max and this is Pi mean. And similarly, your Qi, it is between Qi max and Qi mean. So any generator, Pi is this I is varying from 1 to n. There are n number of generators are there. There are n number of generators. So each generator will generate power between some minimum active power value and some maximum active power value. So I told you why this minimum constraint is there, minimum and maximum. I told in the last class. If you generate more active power, that means if you are crossing this limit, Pi max, so what will happen? If you are crossing this Pi max, last class I have told you, what will happen? Can you remember that thing? If a particular generator is generating beyond, let us say, maximum power generation, so what will happen? What will happen? Huh? Regarding the boiler, when I was discussing boiler, that time I told you. So boiler flame, it gets overheated, so it cannot withstand that amount of heat. So that's why if you can remember that heat rate curve, incremental cost characteristic, it is between some this value, and there was a sum. This is your minimum value, and this is your some maximum value. Yes or no? This side is your output. Last class we have discussed.
Yes.
Okay. Now this QI mean, again the reactive power, it is again it is limited between some minimum generation and some maximum generation. So if we are generating, if we are crossing this limit, if we are crossing this reactive power limit, the rotor gets overheated. The rotor gets overheated. So this is the constraint why we cannot generate beyond the maximum reactive power limit. Okay, and similarly this QI mean, again why we cannot cross below this particular limit. That is because of your the limitation, that is your boiler cannot sustain that particular flame, and the particular turbine cannot generate have the sufficient amount of heat. That is, the steams will not be at the super saturated condition, and then the problem will come, that is the turbine blade gets corroded. Okay, so this is the basic reason why we cannot generate below the minimum reactive power limits. So each generator in operation will have a minimum and maximum permissible output, and the production must be constrained to ensure this is the limit. And similarly, the limits may have to be considered over the range of the reactive power capabilities of the generator units. So this NG and NQ, these are the basically number of sources. NG is the number of generators, and NQ is the number of reactive power sources. Now, next constraint is the total capacity, the MVA capacity of the generator. It has some limit. Okay, so you cannot cross the generation beyond the capacity of the generator. So that is Pi square plus QI square is less than equal to SI rated square. So you cannot cross beyond that, because if S is the MVA capacity of the generating unit, if you are generating more than that, that is not possible. So we have to limit our generation within the maximum rating of the generator. Now, next is the dynamic limits may also have to be considered when there is a fast changes in the generation. That means, you see, the generator will generate at this moment, let us say 200 megawatt. But you have a certain connected load. After 10 minutes, let us say there is an increase of load of 100 megawatt. Now you need to change the generation. You need to increase the generation. So at that time, which rate the generator will generate? Because the rate of increase of the generation should be how much? So that is calculated basically. That is, there is a certain limit for that. That is dPi by dPt. This is the rate of change of active power generation. It is basically limited between dPi by dt. That is, there is some maximum value, and similarly there is some dPi by dt. It has some minimum value. So that means the rate of change of generation will also have some minimum or maximum. That means dPi by dt is what? Per unit time, what is the change in generation? So per unit time may be per minute. For example, per minute you can change, that is 2 megawatt. For example, now you have to reach to that particular, let us say 100 megawatt. So you can calculate that this is the rate. You cannot cross this value. This is, let us say 50, and this value is 10. So it is this particular thing. You cannot generate more than you cannot generate less than 10 megawatt per minute, and you cannot increase your generation by, let us say 50 megawatt per minute. Okay, so this is the limit. So because if you are changing your generation at a faster rate, the generator will not be able to sustain it. Okay, so it may be out of synchronism also. Now, the maximum and minimum operating condition for a group of generators within a power station may be different from the respective sum of the maximum and minimum operating levels of the turbines that are supplied by a single boiler. The extremes of boiler operating condition will determine these limits. Now, thus, group of generators from individual boiler units may have to be subjected to additional constraints. So again, a number of generator is connected with a single boiler. So there also there is a certain limit. So each generator can generate between some minimum generation and the maximum generator, where here is the number of generator groups. So how many generators are connected in a groups? So that is basically the summation of that. Now, spare capacity is required to account for the errors in the load prediction. See, there is a spare capacity. This has to be we have to remember that there is a certain condition that one generator is facing some problem. So that is maybe due to the maintenance issue, or maybe there is a fault on the system, or any due to any unscheduled let us say conditions. Unscheduled causes are coming into the system, and because of that, one generator has to be taken out, and that may arise for a multiple number of generators. So what has to be done? So each generator, it has some spare capacity. Whenever it is generating, it has some spare capacity. Spare means the reserve capacity. It is known as the reserve capacity. So each generator has to generate some amount of excess generation, and that amount of excess generation should not be excess enough, because we cannot store the electrical power. Because if every generator is generating the excess power, so what will happen? The load if it is greater than your connected load, so you cannot store the electrical power. Because can you store the electrical power? Can you store?
No, sir.
Huh? Can you store the electrical power?
Yes, sir.
How you can store?
So in battery, sir.
Huh?
The battery.
Battery is okay, but if let us say you have to store 10 megawatt electrical power, can you store it with the help of battery?
No, sir.
Yes. So that means we have some smaller capacity storage, but if we have to let us say store a bulk amount of electrical power, that so our generation should be such that should be such that it should not actually get wasted. The electrical power should not get wasted. So in that case, we have to see that the total generation of the electrical power should be equal to the load plus some amount of reserved amount. So let us say, for example, your connected load is 10 megawatt. So what should be your generation? This is an example. It's not the actual data. So let us say you are generating 11 megawatt. So that means 1 megawatt you are keeping the reserve for the system. See, electrical system, we cannot predict when the fault will come, because fault can appear at any point of time. And there may be the outage of the system, there may be maintenance issue. So there may be so many things which will come, because these are all the machineries. Machineries may face some of the problems, and that problem has to be diagnosed, and that problem has to be corrected. So in that case, your system will be sufficient enough so that your generation should be actually matching with your load. So load can be, if suddenly, let us say, your 100 megawatt is taken out of the system and you have a connected load, so what will happen? You cannot immediately manage it. So the load has to be shut off. Okay, load has to be shut off means there will be load shedding. But that is a basically usual phenomena here, what we observe here, because our system is something like that. We are facing severe kind of load shedding. Okay, here also in our college also we are facing that. So there is a power shortage, basically. There is a power shortage, maintenance issue, so many issues are coming. So load has to be cut off. So the point is, the generation, the electrical power, what has to be generated, it should be greater than or equal to the connected load plus some amount of your reserve. Okay, so thus the total generation G available at any time must be in excess of the total anticipated load demand and the system losses by an amount not less than a specified minimum spare capacity, that is PS. So our actually the generation should not be something excess. Okay, it should be, let us say, G should be greater than or equal to, this is the generation available from number of generators, P, that is summation of I equal to 1 to NG, that is PI, that means is the generation available from the generators plus a some amount of reserve capacity. PSP is the basically reserve capacity of that particular generator. Now, the thermal consideration may require that the transmission lines may be subjected to branch transfer constraint. See, that is a very, very important thing. When you are, this is a thermal constraint. So when you are transmitting electrical power, you have to keep in mind that it should not cross the thermal limit of the transmission line. So I will just explain that thing. So let us say you have a transmission line, its capacity is SI. SI is the SBI, for example. It is SBI for the branch. Okay. So it is the SBI is the capacity of that. This is the, what is S? S is the basically in your MVA. S in MVA. So MVA means certain amount of MVA. Okay. Let us say a transmission line is there. It is capable of carrying 10 MVA power. Okay. Now, so this limit, this is the SBI max. So that means it is limiting between some maximum value and it is limiting between some minimum value, because you can transmit 10 megawatt. Okay. If you are transmitting, if the capacity of that particular line, it can withstand up to 10 MVA, for example, you can transmit up to 10 MVA. If you are transmitting 15 MVA, so what will happen? Due to the thermal constraint, the line cannot actually transmit that particular power and line gets overheated. Okay, so that is not desirable. Every conductor, it has some thermal limit. So if you are crossing that thermal limit, then that particular conductor will be damaged. So there will be a fault in the system. The system has to be taken out, and that will again a consequent problem which will arise in the system. In addition, constraints are to be imposed for the bus voltage magnitude and for phase displacement between them for maintaining voltage profile and for limiting overloading capacity. So that means there are basically voltage limit and there is some power angle limit. So voltage limit and power angle limits, what are those? Every bus is subjected to this kind of basically limit. First limit is every bus, there is a VIJ. VIJ means the voltage between two buses. So it should be between some VIG maximum and it should be limited between some VIJ minimum. So every bus, it has some limit, voltage limit. So if you are crossing the voltage limit, because obviously the voltage is the one of the important parameter which has to be maintained constant at every bus. Okay. And similarly, there is a power angle, delta IJ. This delta IJ, again, it should be between some maximum value, and here also the delta IJ, it is also limited between some minimum value. Okay, so these kind of constraints are there because these are the very, very important constraints, while actually we are considering the power system operation. Now, so where n is the number of nodes and n is the number of nodes neighboring each node with the interconnecting branches. So that is the basic thing. Now, in case of transformer tap positions are to be included. So see, there are transformers, obviously that will be there. So again, you cannot change the transformer tap arbitrarily. There is some limit for that. You cannot change. You cannot change the transformer taps as per your wish. So there is a certain limits for that. So the transformer taps, again, it is limited between, this is, let us say, TIT. This is again limited between some maximum value and it is limited between some minimum value. So the transformer taps cannot be arbitrarily, it cannot be changed. It has to be between some minimum and maximum value. Sometimes phase shifting transformers are also connected. Phase shifting, have you heard the name phase shifting transformer anywhere? Phase shifting transformer. Hello. Have You heard this name, phase shifting transformer? Anywhere,
No,
huh? Yes or no? Please tell me. If you know it, then it's okay. If you are don't know it, then please tell me that yeah, we don't know it. Huh?
yes, sir.
Phase shifting, you know. That's correct. So that means the phase shifting transformers are there. So this phase shift should be limited between again some minimum value and maximum value. So phase shifting of any phase shifting transformer should not be a arbitrary parameter. So it should be governed by this particular limit. So it is between some minimum limit and some maximum limit. Now next is so we have discussed that what are the basically constraints in the systems are. Okay. Now planned scheduling methods. So now we will come gradually that how to schedule these particular generations. What is the process? What is the methodology that we are going to adopt actually? So we'll see that see this power system, electrical power, it has started from which year? Anyone can tell me that? See, now we are getting this electricity at our house, but actually when it is started, which year? You search in the Google, and you find out from which year we are getting this facility. Okay, so when initially it is started, there are some number of methods are there to schedule this particular plant. Now that time it was not so actually efficient methods are available, but gradually how the progress is made to schedule this particular scheduling, we will know all those methods. But nowadays, what is the method which is adopted? So that also we'll discuss. So these are some ancient methods, or let us say the old methods, which will just know that what is the process, but actually what is done we'll discuss in due course of time. So at the plant level, several operating procedures were adopted in the past, leading to efficient operation resulting in economy. So previously it was actually adopted. First is the base loading to the capacity. So base loading to the capacity means the turbo generators are successively loaded to their rated capacities in the order of their efficiency. So there are a number of generators are there in the ancient time, maybe in the past time, not ancient, it is in the past time. So 5 generators are there. It is, and their efficiency, it was known what is the efficiency of each generator. So based on the efficiency, each generators are loaded. So let us say the 4th generator, it is having the highest efficiency. I will tell you in the board. Okay, it's a very easy thing, I think. So there are 5 generators are there. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And their capacities are, let us say 200, 500, 250, then let us say 125, 200, like that. And their efficiencies are, let us say, this is 94, this is 92, this is 90, this is 98, this is 93. Okay. So how we load this generator? That is what was the process? The highest efficient generator will be loaded first. So in this case, it is this 98% is the highest efficient generator, so it will be loaded fast. So generator number 4 will be loaded fast. Then after that, it should be loaded, that is 94, that is 1. So this will be loaded next. Then after that, generator number 5. Then generator number 2, that is 92. And then lastly, this generator 3. This is clear that how we'll load this generator? Depending upon their efficiency. Depending upon their efficiency. Now let us say you have a load in the system is, let us say 500 megawatt. So which generator will be loaded actually? Generator 4, you see, it can cater up to 200 megawatt. So it can cater 200 megawatt. So we'll generate first, we'll start this generator. Then we have not satisfied the load because 500 minus 200 it is 300 megawatt. Still 300 megawatt load has to be satisfied. So next we load generator number 1. Generator number 1 can cater 200 megawatt. So again we'll start 200 megawatt. So we'll reduce to it 200. So then 100 megawatt is remaining. So generator 5 can cater 200 megawatt, but we'll actually generate generator number 1 generator number 5, 100 megawatt. So we are getting that the scheduling of the generator will be 4, 1, and 5. But 5 will be underloaded, it will be loaded up to 100 megawatt. This is clear. Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So the turbo generators are successively loaded to their rated capacities in the order of their efficiencies. That is to say that the most efficient unit will get greater share in the load allocation, which is a natural solution to the problem. So that is the natural way to allocate the load among the various generators. Second is the base loading to the most efficient load. Base loading to most efficient load. You have to understand the term. We have to base load to the most efficient load. In this case, the heat rate characteristics are considered and the turbo generator units are successively loaded to their most efficient loads in increasing order of their heat rates. In both the above methods, thermodynamic consideration assume importance and the schedules will not differ from each other much. So anyway, that will be basically the different techniques it was adopted. So those techniques we are basically discussing here. Now, the second case, we can see that the most efficient load means the important load has to be catered first based on their heat rate characteristic. So heat rate characteristic is the parameter which is actually used to schedule the generators. So if let us say there are 5 generators are there, we'll arrange those generators according to their heat rate characteristic. So if the generator number 3 has the better heat rate characteristic, that particular generator will be loaded fast and it will cater to the most important load. That is most efficient load we have to solve. And gradually that will progress and will so on, it will increase and then finally the load scheduling is done. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Efficient load. I think you have to tell because this silent operation it is then it is very difficult. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, last one, there is a proportional loading to capacity. So there is a third method which was considered as a thumb rule in the absence of any technical data is to the load the generating units in proportion to their capacities as stated in the nameplate. So in the nameplate, there is some capacity is written. So maybe 500, 200, 300, 400, like that. Whatever the capacity is written in the nameplate. So based on the nameplate, whatever data is written, that is the rated capacity. Now you have to apply some proportional method. Proportional method means the generator which is having the higher capacity that will be loaded first. The generator which is having the lower capacity that will be loaded next. So depending upon their rated capacities, the generators will be loaded according to their schedule. Okay. So now, now I should share your that QR code. Just a minute. Now, one thing I will ask you know your attendance data? You know? So,
No, sir.
you don't know na, your attendance?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. And you know what is the continuous evaluation system?
Yes, sir.
Fine. What is that?
Sir, our experiment will be marked on regular basis.
Yeah, that is the thing it is you are supposed to do. Because institute got NBA I have shared with you some point of time. Yes or no?
So what, sir?
NBA. Our institute got NBA. You all of you are knowing this thing.
No, sir.
They're all branches.
Huh? No.
All
it is-
branches, sir.
No, it is not for all branch. It is for mechanical, computer science and electronics. Okay. So, but it is applicable for all branches. No? We need to do certain things, certain process are there. So, based on that, this process will be followed.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so you just take your QR code, means you put your attendance. You put your attendance. Is it over?
Certain.
Done, na? No. Okay, fine. So with this, I will stop today's class. Okay, thank you to all of you. We'll meet tomorrow again. Okay. Thank you. I will close this meeting.